Hello, traders. This is Rich from tradesight. Wanted to take a few minutes and walk you through a setup that we traded at the end of this current week, which was in the shares of ISNS. It was kind of a classic setup that really should have caught your attention. Not only was it a classic setup, but it was one that had a great deal of energy wound up in it, and it led to a really good percentage gain intraday. So without further ado, let's take a look at the charts and see what they have to say, and let's talk about the setup first. All right, first up, here's a look at the daily chart of ISNS. I'm just going to repeat that again. This is the daily chart of ISNS. The reason I'm repeating myself is because this really looks like the 5-minute chart of some small cap that had news come out on it. But that's the beauty of this setup, is that it's something that was basing for quite a long time, and then really started to move where it gave you enough time to see what was developing, and profit from this move. What we did was, obviously we didn't have the luxury of being long that lottery ticket where we're long the stock at $2 and cashed out at the high. But that's not necessary. The important thing is that as you see things like this gathering volume, gathering interest, and traders are jumping in, oftentimes there are legitimate entries and tradable setups. And in this case, there definitely was. First, let's talk about the distribution candles that we see here on the chart, because that is really the key here and what brought my attention to the setup. All right, first thing, let's talk about distribution candles. Distribution candles are generally when there's positive price action, but it's posting a poor candle on the chart. These are candlestick charts. The candles here that are dark bodied are the ones that are closing down, so the close is below the open. If you can see at point A here on the chart that we've got a distribution candle. The stock is up nicely on the day, but it's settling and closing well below the day's open. So what that really means is that even though the stock's up on the day, that the bulls didn't have full control of the issue, and in fact, the two most important prints of the day are the open and the close. They're also the two biggest prints of the day almost always. So as you can see here, the majority of the people who were accumulating shares at point A on the chart on that particular day went home underwater. And the important part here, though, is what happens after that distribution candle. You can see that there were 2 candles here where the stock could not get out of its own way. Okay, the stock had only just recently blasted out of this very, very nice and very protracted base. But certainly that candle A there was a distribution candle that held back price for a couple of sessions. Turn your attention up here to the candle at point B. That's another distribution candle, but this one has a lot more range. Not only does this one have a lot more range, it closes very, very near the low of the day. So that means that virtually everyone who bought shares that day was underwater, and that's where you can make the argument that the shares are in fact in weak hands, meaning that the people that accumulated those shares at those prices are uncomfortable being long. They're probably already taking home a loss, and those are the folks that will be probably quick on the trigger to exit the stock the next day. So that's what we're looking for. Just scroll over here. This is what the chart looks like at this point. We've got distribution candle A here, sloppy price action that follows it. Distribution candle B. And when I pulled this up, I said, boy, this looks like this gap wants to fill, and I wouldn't count on anybody really coming in to buy this until that gap fills because of the nature of candle B. One thing I just want to reiterate before we move on, though, is that this is something that you didn't have to have a lottery ticket for. This is something that you could have reviewed, in real time the night before, detected this setup on the chart, and then made your trade for the next day. So let's talk about the trade and see how it played out. All right, now we're going to get back to take a look at this. This is the same chart, only we're drilling down to the 5-minute time frame. The 5-minute time frame is excellent for spotting potential entry points because you can work in both the 5-minute and combine 3 candles to make the 15-minute time frame. So here's that gap up from that distribution candle. You can see we opened up here, and they tried to hold this up all day, but you can see that ultimately settled right here. Here's the candle where it settled down here at the very near the low of the day, making all of these people who accumulated shares uncomfortable and upside down, if you will, in the trade. All right, so now what I've done is I just marked off the opening 15-minute range in the chart. Made a low of 767 during that opening 15 minutes. So you can see that it also actually swept the lows of the previous day while it was doing the price discovery. So it swept the lows, swept the highs of the first 5-minute candle, and then basically set that level. So after finding this last night, the previous night, then detecting the weak opening price action, the trigger was set at 767. So what the trigger means is we're going to be shorting this as it crosses below 767. As you can see, it didn't take too long for it, in fact, to trigger and start to roll to the downside, and it started to pick up some nice momentum. And this went pretty quickly from about 767 to about 705, which was a major level in the level that we were targeting, really for that first area of interest after taking the initial partial profit. So this actually made a very, very large percentage move even before you really got out of the first couple hours of trade. The stock then went sideways for quite a bit using that 705 area of support, as you can see, and it goes sideways quite a bit more before finally starting to roll even further and taking out that support at 705 and making that final flush to the downside. As you can see, the stock continues to trade lower before bouncing and curling up just a little bit at the end of the day, giving you plenty of opportunities to trail a stop and ultimately get a very, very large gain locked in. And remember, this is only $7.50 stock, so this is something that could be taken with quite a bit of size, and it could have been very, very profitable had you spotted those distribution candles and then found a good entry either under the first 5-minute bar or under the first 15-minute opening range, which is what we chose to do. So this is just something that we do every day at tradesight, and this call was put in the private Twitter feed for our subscribers to alert them to take a look at this setup. So I want to take a moment now and talk about that key area here at $7.05, because it's not a guess that was going to be a key support area. That was obviously an area to take off a little bit of the trade, get a little profit booked, and then let the rest of it play out. But what we used for that were the Murrey Math levels. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip the chart here back to the daily for a moment. So here's a look at the chart with the Murrey Math levels on it. We don't really have enough time to get into detail on the Murrey Math levels. What we do is basically spans octaves. There's the 0/8, the 4/8, and the 8/8, plus all the individual octaves in between it. So the nearby level was 703, which we just rounded up to 705 as that first area of support for the stock. And as you can see, that definitely came into play that day. So that the 5/8 level at 705 in combination with the dirty gap window, the high from that preceding bar was kind of a double level, which really gave it a reason to find some support at that 705 area. So that was ultimately also not only the support area, but also the break level when the stock did roll later on in the day, and when all of these people who were uncomfortable with the stock and after it didn't bounce finished flushing their shares out. So really good setup. Just to recap what we talked about, you want to always be on guard for distribution candles. So even though a stock is up on the day, it doesn't mean the quality of the trade there was good. The other thing is make sure you find a good setup and a legitimate entry, either under the 5-minute or the 15-minute range, and then always be looking for additional levels to help roadmap your trade so you can manage your trade. Remember, all the money that you make is really on the trade management side and staying in potentially profitable trades. All right, folks, as always, thanks for listening. This has been Rich for tradesight.